Andre grinned at the floor-to-ceiling poster on the wall of the stuffy subway terminal as the buzz of commuters ebbed and flowed around him. Pictured in the poster, King Linus, the hero of the world-renowned Vermilion saga, leaned forward on his throne. His gold-speckled eyes gazed at Andre as if seeing him through the bounds of the poster, or through the fourth wall itself. Above the king's gleaming royal mane were emblazoned the words Remilium Con. Below him, a tagline popped: guest appearance by author President F.S. Sedona. Andre squeezed the straps of his backpacks, knuckles turning white. That should have been Andre's name on the poster, but F.S. Sedona stole his book and used it to rise to the precipice of Gredoria, crushing him in her shadow. That wasn't all. With the Blessed Prince, she'd also stolen his connection to its world, Halissa, and its characters, ripped them from his being, leaving him shattered and broken. His friends, especially V, were pushing him to join them at Remilium Con, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Andre clutched the talisman around his neck and placed it over his heart, over the name Linus tattooed on his chest. No amount of time could heal his wounds. Time had allowed him to find alternate solutions, the soul's equivalent of replacing a missing hand with a hook. Spending time with other worlds and other stories kept him functional. When he wasn't gazing into the book dimension, he joined the other struggling authors down here in the metro, performing the opening scene of his latest novel, Throne of Bones, for the subway passengers. Andre lifted the talisman from his chest and gazed into the gemstone. The purple facets were inlaid in an eye at the center of the silver compass. He focused on Vlaviken, the main character, definitely not a hero, of Throne of Bones. Andre had glimpsed into Vlaviken's world so many times he had no longer needed to meditate to channel it. Bones snapped in his ears, and the metallic taste of blood trickled across his tongue as energy from the other side of the fourth wall coursed through him. The metro train screamed to a stop in front of him. Andre reached around to a portable speaker nestled in the drink holder in his backpack and quested for the power button. It chirped to life as the train's doors slid open. Passengers spilled out all along the platform, and Andre hopped over the threshold onto the subway car. More than just the weight of his novel-filled backpack pulled on his shoulders. Throne of Bones had been published several months earlier and was underperforming, even by Andre's meager standards. Performing his stories for Metro passengers served the primary function of healing his soul. Still, he needed to sell a few copies in the process for the sake of both his career and his stomach. It moaned in agreement. A policeman in the back of the train car watched Andre with cold eyes. The officer gripped an overhead bar, flexing his thick arm. His burly gut tested the buttons of his brown uniform. Andre's ears burned under his gaze, and he faltered. The door remained open. He could bail. No, he'd known writing a novel about a psychotic mass murderer was risky. Readers feared supporting such a story would only bring similar horrors into their own world. But Andre had done his due diligence and passed all the government assessments. His novel was certified. If things turned nasty, the law was on his side. He squeezed past a white-haired, page-worn woman, her crinkled, undead skin extra wrinkled with age. The edges of her pasty features were inky as if diseased. Her black-tipped fingers wrapped around a styrofoam cup. A thin wisp of steam wafted from the small opening in the lid. The burnt aroma energized him. Always too hot, she muttered to someone on the phone, her voice raspy. Sure, I'm immortal, but that doesn't mean I want to regrow my throat every morning. Andre pulled his phone from his pocket and pressed play on the audio track he used to accompany his performance. The trumpeting of a hunting horn burst from the portable speaker, announcing his performance. Familiar with the sound, the passengers watched him, many looking up from their phones. A pair of dark-skinned Hisram women in unintelligible conversation, one of them noticeably pregnant, lowered their voices, but otherwise ignored him. Andre ducked to the front of the metro car around a middle aged man in a button up shirt, a piece of a tattoo peeking out of his collar. The man clasped Andre's shoulder in a vice grip. "What's your name?" he asked. "Andre Neri," he said, "author of the cult success Sisters of Carnage and Coin from the Divine Sisterhood trilogy." Unfortunately, success was a relative term. At the mention of carnage, the page-sworn woman scowled, her black lips carving deeper wrinkles in her parchment skin. Andre filed that reaction away in the back of his mind. If she recoiled at the word carnage, she'd have a lot of trouble with Throne of Bones, and one rotten spot could ruin the whole melon. The man grinned and pulled his crisp collar down to reveal the symbol of the Divine Sisterhood series, a tattoo of three spikes splayed out like spokes of a wheel. "The name's Fianu," he said, his voice rumbling with excitement. "Are you presenting Carnage and Coin?" "No, my new novel." Andre appreciated Fianu's interest, but the track was already playing and he needed to get in position for the first line. Luckily, Fianu winked and turned to the crowded train car. "Let's make some room," he called. The passengers closest to the front shifted deeper into the car, giving Andre space. The policeman remained statuesque, non-responsive, and unreadable. Andre turned away and removed his pack to reveal the words "Throne of Bones" over the image of an armchair made of the bones of a massive wildcat with antlers that prowled the outer reaches of Lavikin's kingdom, ironed onto the back of his black shirt. It was homemade, but it fit his budget, and that's what was most important at this point. Andre listened for reactions. Sometimes the cover alone was enough to turn a crowd negative. While it hadn't happened to Andre, he heard of audience turning nasty on other writers, especially horror authors. It seemed only a small number of people understood the value of delving into the darkness. So, if he found himself with an audience who feared what his books might manifest into the world, he would perform an edited version with brighter vocabulary. Hopefully, having a fan in the audience would garner some positive interest, but the undead woman's negative reaction to the little he'd already said made him worry she'd turn the crowd sour. No one reacted, so he tucked his backpack in the corner of the train car and caught hold of one of the vertical floor-to-ceiling bars on the train car, or as the train car jerked forward. He crouched for balance, but the stance also served as the beginning of the performance. The roar of the subway speeding through the tunnel threatened to overtake the track. "Horror, filth!" The page-sworn woman's waspy voice rang in his ears. Andre flinched, but he held his ground. He wouldn't stop his performance just because someone shouted at him. But it was much more than a shout. Hot liquid spilled down his back, soaking through his shirt and eating at his skin. Andre jerked and roared. The aroma of roasted beans overpowered his nostrils. He twisted and contorted to remove the shirt, breathing through his teeth. His eyes clouded with tears, and his back throbbed where the coffee had first made contact. Fianu shouted something, his voice rolling through the car. Footsteps echoed from Andre's speaker as the track played on without him. Someone pulled the back of his shirt away from his skin. Dark hands reached into the periphery of his tear-blurred vision, helping him remove the shirt. He gritted his teeth through the pain. "Are you all right?" one of the Hisramb women asked. Her accent clipped, favoring the consonants, her voice calm and concerned. I don't know," Andre said, disoriented. A bout of rejection surged within him. He forced it down, squeezing his eyes shut, pushing the tears free. "How bad is it?" "Not bad," she said. "I've seen worse. Hand me my purse." Andre sunk to the grimy floor of the train car. He turned his neck slowly to see over his shoulder, the skin pulled tight and angry. The pregnant woman knelt behind him. She wore a calm, determined expression, framed by thick, black, frizzy curls. She took a handbag from the other Hisramb woman and withdrew a plastic water bottle. It crinkled as she unscrewed it. She slowly poured water over Andre's bright red back. He sighed in instant relief. Crows squawked through the speaker. The woman reached around him to his backpack and pressed pause on the device. "Thank you," Andre said. "It's the least I could do," she said, shrugging. "I do not fear you. She strung together a series of vowel-free sounds. Like his friend V, her name was too hard to pronounce. Seeing his confusion, she said, "Call me Mag." Only a few paces away, Fianu stood guard over the page-sworn woman, blocking her path to Andre. Locks of white hair had fallen into her face as if there had been a struggle of some kind. Her styrofoam cup lay abandoned and steaming in a pool of brown liquid on the floor. Mag followed his gaze to the undead woman and then poured more water down his back. "She's afraid," Mag said. "She knows death and she lets it drive the narrative." Mag used a chair to pull herself off the floor, adjusting around her baby bump. "I'm sure it hurts right now, but it'll be all right. You'll heal quicker than an immortal." In the back of the car, the cop hadn't moved a single bulging muscle. The train slowed and Andre replaced his coffee-soaked shirt. The cool liquid stayed against his back. Mag offered Andre a hand and helped him to his feet. Andre picked up his backpack and turned to face the passengers. The train stopped and the door slid open. A few passengers stepped out and more entered. He could leave, run away and hide, like he'd done in the past. He'd let Efesidona steal the Blessed Prince and craft herself into a hero. He peered at the page-sworn woman. He knew that if he left, he'd be giving her the same power he'd given Efesidona. No, he wouldn't let fear drive his decisions again. Even if it hurt, even if they hated him for it, he'd perform. Vlavikin's story, no matter how dark, gave him a measure of healing, and he wanted to share that with others. Andre dropped his pack and restarted the track. He stood up, unable to refrain from wincing at the pain pulling on his back. The page-sworn woman narrowed her eyes at him. Fianu nodded in encouragement. Mag returned to her seat next to her friend, watching him with that same confident and caring expression. The policeman remained stone cold. In general, the police didn't like stories that, in their opinion, glorified crime, but the officer hadn't budged. He'd stood back and watched when Andre was attacked. He had a duty to serve and protect, and he'd done nothing. His negligence stood for something deeper than mere preference. The metro doors closed and the hunting horn resounded from the speaker, announcing his performance for the second time. Silence followed. Every eye fell on him. He held on to the bar as the train lurched forward. The roar of the train rushing through the tunnel smothered the silence. At the last minute, Andre reached into his bag and retrieved the white mask pocked with tiny red horns. He stretched out the string and pulled it over his head. Footsteps against stone echoed from his speaker. Crouching, Andre marched along with the track, performing the opening scene of Throne of Bones. "A murder of crows scattered into the heavens," Andre projected. He sprang to his full height as crows squawked through the speaker. He sucked in air, his skin flaring with pain. He clutched his hands around the Eye of Discovery charm, fighting to channel Vlavikin's world. He tasted blood. Bones snapped in his ears. He forced his pain. He forced Andre aside. This was Vlavikin's story, not his. He continued, voice strong, channeling Vlavikin's unhinged courage. As the masked prince, Vlavikin climbed the stairs into the city wall, Andre mimed, pulling a coat in with a shiver. He emerged into the open air and pulled in his mantle. A rush of wind resonated from his speaker, filling the car. A chill wind blasted up over the barrier, whispering in the young prince's ear. "She comes," played the track with a hiss, "with a knife trained on your neck." "The same message," Andre said with a quiver. He paused and took an audible, worried breath. "Always the same message." Andre worked through the scene, detailing Prince Vlavikin's conversation with the wind and the beginnings of his meticulous plans to protect himself from this unknown threat. While the pain in Andre's back flared on the outside of his consciousness, Vlavikin's essence dominated the moment. The train pulled to a stop. A few passengers slipped out as more entered to take their place. He continued his performance through the transition. His time was short. Two stops was the sweet spot. Long enough to give a solid taste of the novel, but short enough that he wasn't dealing with a completely different audience by the time he finished. Andre marched on through the surging of the train and finished performing the scene. He sliced his sword through the air with a raw, guttural scream. Andre cut through the air with his arm, and the soft whip of a swinging sword shot from the speaker, followed by Prince Vlavikin's angry bellow. The prince turned his back on the wind and marched back to the stairs. The ancient forced rush over the wall, undeterred. The track on his phone echoed with the howling of the wind. She comes. Andre froze, his back to the audience, letting the silence stand, letting the unease penetrate to the bones, the cover on the back of his shirt on display. He squatted, careful to keep his back straight. He removed the mask and grabbed a few copies of Throne of Bones from his pack, stacking them in his arms. He turned to face the audience and charged into the sales pitch. I'm Andre Neri, and this is Throne of Bones. He held up one of the copies to polite but unenthusiastic applause. This thrilling Strange Worlds novel about a prince's paranoid plot to rid his kingdom of those who would defy him can be yours for an easy 10 slabs or best offer. Thank you for your time and safe travels on this beautifully muggy summer day. That last sarcastic line got a smile from several people and an outright chuckle from Mag. Andre kept his face appreciative and humble. Fianu signaled Andre by sweeping one hand over the other and then flipping the palm face up as if turning a page. Andre strode over to him, taking a book off the top and digging into his pocket for a pen. Good shit, Fianu said, withdrawing a few bills from his wallet. Andre opened the book on top and, balancing the rest, signed the title page. To Fianu, Andre wrote, "May the darkness serve to make the light shine brighter." He slashed his name across the cover page and handed the book over. In return, Fianu handed him 15 slabs. You don't need to, Andre said. 10 is fine. Or best offer, Fianu countered. Andre smiled. Thank you. That's very gracious. The train was slowing. He reassumed his humble expression and scanned the crowd. The policeman caught Andre's eye and made the sign, swiping one hand over the other. Andre's heart pounded. Was it possible he'd won the officer's interest? He had barely seemed to notice when the old woman tossed her coffee on Andre. The bull of a man reached into his pocket and Andre squeezed through the passengers to the back of the train car. But the policeman didn't retrieve a wallet. Instead, he pulled a pen and a citation notebook out of his pocket. Andre Neri, he said as he wrote, "Are you sure this novel is certified?" Of course, Andre said. The content and the cover are certainly questionable, the officer frowned. The certification is on the title page, Fianu said, holding up his copy. Are you sure? The officer looked Andre in the eye. I'd hate if a clerk happened to have misfiled it. Andre felt the blood draining from his head. Of course, the officer said. 15 slabs could guarantee that the clerk doesn't make any mistakes. Andre held out the money Fianu had just given him without hesitation. 15 slabs wasn't worth the trouble of losing his certification. Before the officer could take the money, Fianu stepped in between Andre and the policeman, knocking Andre's hand to the side. I liked you better when you did nothing, Fianu said to the officer. He's clearly a struggling author. He made 15 slabs today. 15. You probably made more just standing here not doing your job, watching that woman assault him. Here. Fianu tossed a handful of bills at the cop's feet. Andre grabbed a vertical railing to stabilize himself as the train came to a stop. Fianu spun on him and guided him out of the train by the shoulder. Your backpack, Mag called out. Andre turned in time to take the bag from her outstretched hand before the doors slid closed between them. Fianu released his shoulder. Here, Andre said, holding out Fianu's money. Take the book as a gift. You didn't have to do that. I did, he said, refusing the money in Andre's hand. Andre held firm, reaching to deposit the money in Fianu's chest pocket. Fianu sidestepped out of reach into the crowd. He waved and disappeared down the underground corridor. "Thank you," Andre called, resigned. He sat down on a bench, reeling. What had just happened? What a rush. He decided not to act on his fear, and he'd survived. They could kick him while he was down, but he'd stand up again. Another Rumilium Con poster caught his eye on the subway wall. Ephes Adona. What would have happened if he'd faced her instead of fleeing in fear? He'd let her run his life and control the narrative. It was time to put the fear aside. He was going to Rumilium Con. He was going to face her. Whew. Thanks, guys. I saw emojis flying across the screen. Thanks all of you guys who made it. I see some stuff in the chat. Thank you guys so much for all the comments. Let's see. Now I'm just waiting to see someone come flying at Kevin from off screen. Very nice, guys. I was thinking that actually, I want to say a couple of things. That was really cool to read to you guys. I don't know if it was very visible on screen, but I got emotional in a couple parts. This was really awesome. It's more than just a story to me. This is I don't know. There's something here that's important to me, and I'm really happy that I'm sharing it with you guys. There's a really cool moment when Andre says it's not his story, it's Vlavikin's. And I just, in that moment, I was thinking, it's not my story, it's Andre's. And I don't know, just cool. I don't know if that means anything to you guys. This has been like 5 years of me just being in this story. But yeah, those are the feels. Yeah, in case you guys missed it, I know some people popped up after I started my little intro. I'm leaving this video up so you can rewatch if you missed the beginning, but also you can get Throne of Bones free in the description. I also put it in the chat. I think it's pinned or something, but there's lots of places you can find it. Excuse me. If any of you guys have questions or thoughts, I'll hang out for a few minutes. I've had several people ask me how the short story Throne of Bones connects to the greater story. Like, for example, what elements carry over into the fourth wall. And basically, Andre is the main character of the fourth wall. So you just kind of pick up his story from there. That's why I call this a unofficial prologue. And the cool thing about the fourth wall, though, is that there's it follows a second story of Andre's. Instead of following Throne of Bones and Vlavikin's story, Andre has a new connection, a different story that he wants to share with the world. Another cool thing about the fourth wall, or about Throne of Bones, is I included the woman who throws coffee is a fantasy race. She's unique to the world. She's unique to this world, to the author dimension. And she's called a page sworn. I said that a couple times. You probably caught it. and the context around her race is there's several different fantasy races in this world that are different versions of undead, and they're actually built out of the magic of the world. It's kind of touched on in the what do you call it? It's kind of touched on in the short story, but it's like obviously more deeper in the vault, and it's deeper in the novel. But books kind of have a power in this world, and they can lift authors up, like for example, to become the president, or they can not, like in Andre's case. And that led me to the question, what happens if there's someone who dies and then their book becomes popular? And so the undead were born, and so this woman, she is an author, and died before her books became popular. Yeah. Oh, Julie, I'm glad you made it, Julie. So this was my first live reading, so I'm curious, how was the experience for you guys? Was there anything you especially liked or anything you want more of next time? The mid aspect was fun. Yeah, that was actually, I saw somebody commented in here. It's a very meta moment, Kevin promoting his book with Andre promoting his book. You just needed the background music. Yeah, I thought that would have been fun to set it up so that like I could play the whispering instead of me doing the wind whispering. But I was like, that's gonna be so hard to time. So that did not happen. Thank you. I liked the accent. Cecilia says, I was very stressed about that. I do. I mean, I don't. For those of you guys who've seen my other videos, I do weird voices, but usually it's like joking, and I know I'm being crazy, and I usually can't even keep a straight face through them. But I was trying to be serious this time, and so I'm glad that it actually worked, that it went well. Except you put a laughing, crying face, so maybe it didn't go well. Well, thank you guys. I think we're going to end it there. I really appreciate you guys for showing up. And I am so excited for more events in the future. There's going to be something, I don't know what. Oh, I guess I could announce I'm going to be at a couple of conventions this month, February, I guess. I'm going to be at Life, the Universe, and Everything in Provo, Utah. And then I'm also going to be at StoryCon in Salt Lake. I'm not going to be in any panels or anything. I'm just going to be there, but I got cool bookmarks. Let me see if I can grab them real quick. I got cool bookmarks. So if you're there, find me and I'll give you a Throne of Bones bookmark. But yeah, I think we'll end it there. Thank you guys for showing up. And for those of you who are watching this later, thanks for showing up. Have a great evening, everyone.